Bonjour et bienvenue au Festival international du film de Paris. Hello and welcome to the Paris International Film Festival. I'm Jenna, Suru, the executive director of this festival, and today I am absolutely honored and delighted to welcome our distinguished panelists. So with no particular order, first, Katie Mackaloo, founder of the festival Formula. Bonjour, Katie.
Bonjour.
Then, in no particular order, Julie Rahier. Julie Rahier, the head of marketing at Klipist. Bonjour, Julie.
Bonjour.
It's wonderful to have you both. And of course, Theo Dumont, the co-founder, co-director of the Academy Award qualifying Hollyshorts Film Festival, co-director of the Mammo Film Festival, of the Hollywood Comedy Short Film Festival, and managing director at Alta Global Media. Bonjour Theo.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup.
And last but not least, Chris Gore, the founder and editor-in-chief at Filmfret. Bonjour Chris, thank you so much for joining.
Bonjour, thanks for having me.
We are so glad to have you, and there's so much to discuss about the future of short film distribution. First, we would love to hear each one of you, of course, because the industry has been dramatically changing over the past couple of years. How does your festivals or business relate with short film distribution, and how are you contributing to making it a success for the filmmakers? Maybe starting with Katie.
Yeah, sure thing. Festival Formula is a consultancy company that helps filmmakers put their films into festivals around the world. So for us, a lot of filmmakers, predominantly shorts, are looking to either just test that their work translates around the circuit to different territories, but also some filmmakers are on a journey of wanting to seek sales or distribution. You also have the kind of route of people doing a proof of concept as well, with a short going on to a feature. But for us, we're kind of hand-holding a lot of filmmakers to get onto the circuit, to actually kind of get that confidence that their work is strong and actually can play to an audience that they don't know. And for us, not every film necessarily ends in kind of sales or distribution, but it's also not necessarily the goal for every single filmmaker as well. So we have a plethora of clientele. Some of them first-time filmmakers, some of them seasoned pros. So every kind of journey is very, very different and very bespoke to what they need and what they require, which also kind of translates into where we submit and perhaps where the selections happen too. So we've been kept very busy for the last few years, albeit in a pandemic state. We've seen festivals do wonderful things such as this. So.
Thank you so much, Katie. And we know you're back from the Clermont-Ferrand Film Festival and straight back to the office. So thank you so much for making the time. I really want to pick up on what you said about goals, because that's definitely something we want to explore. Julie, what is your role at Klipist, and how are you guys being disruptive and helping the filmmakers for their short film distribution?
So yeah, that's a good question actually, because for us it's a little bit different because we're not exactly a festival. We're more the step after that, and that's sort of the reason why Klipist was founded. It was born sort of out of the frustration that you don't always know what to do with your short film after it's been around, different festivals. So yeah, what do you do after that? Do you put it on YouTube, but then who's really going to see it? Same thing on Vimeo. So for us, it was sort of really important to have a place for filmmakers to be able to showcase their short film after they've been in festivals. So that's kind of our goal, to really have a place for them. And we're taking a bit of a hybrid approach in the sense that our audience is both filmmakers who want a place for their short films, but also for maybe an audience that is not into the film industry and does not necessarily know where to watch short films. So yeah, if they go to Klipist, they have a variety of beautiful short films. And it's kind of, you know, a first initiation to short films for people who are not necessarily very familiar with this sort of genre. So yeah, so that's what we do. We try and pick the best short films that we can find, and actually Festival Formula and Katie have done an amazing job sending amazing short films our way. So yeah, it's a partnership we're really proud of, because we have amazing short films on our platform, a lot thanks to them. We're always excited to watch the short films they send our way. And then what we do is that we also want to market those short films to an audience that is not necessarily an audience of filmmakers. So by taking snippets of those short films, by really putting the message of those stories forward so that it can sort of reach a wider audience that is not necessarily familiar with the industry at first. So yeah, that is us, that is Klipist, and sort of our mission.
How exciting. We love hearing about these amazing partnerships and successful stories. I'll definitely pick up on that. Talking about successful stories, Theo, this has been quite an exciting time of the year for you as the Academy Award shortlists are being announced. How are you contributing to the success of short film distribution?
And, you know, we're very blessed and honored to continue to do this. Hollyshorts is 18 years old, and I'm one of the founders, which is crazy, right? Some people are like, were you involved in the beginning? I'm like, yes. And before I even get there, I just met Julie, but I love everyone on this panel. Everyone here is incredible. I mean, you know, we were just in London the other day. I think we have 15 films that are shortlisted from Hollyshorts, which is insane. And then, you know, Katie, we were in London, you know, celebrating some of the UK filmmakers not too long ago, because, you know, we've been hybrid for the last 2 years. So we haven't been able to be in person. So we had a record number of UK shorts. So we had a nice reception for them. Gore's been amazing friend and contributor and moderator and panelist at Hollyshorts. And I mean, he's a legend. And Jenna, you know, you and Daniel, my co-founder, have an amazing relationship, and we've gotten to see each other in Cannes and here in LA. So, and we did do a screening for some of the finalists, some of our winners. So it's an amazing honor. And you know, when we started, you know, there was no YouTube. Didn't even exist yet. And so, you know, the mission for Hollyshorts was always just simple. Help our friends that are making amazing short films connect with potential people that could advance their careers. That's it. And that mission still exists today. There just happens to be more platforms and places, you know, people are buying them, and, you know, you can make a little bit of money, and we love that. And so we're able to just, you know, send people to our friends and our partners, recommend shorts, you know, from our takes. We get 6,000 submissions now, between 5,000 and 6,000. We show about 400, and then, you know, the pandemic hit, so we're not able to do our live monthly screenings at the Chinese theater like we do, but we host them on Bit, which is our little streaming platform, and that's like this online version of Hollyshorts. It continues, and we're trying to make that a viable platform too. And then we've got other friends and partners. I'm sure we'll get into it deeper, but the people like Alter and Dust and Bueller, you know, people like that, Shorts TV, a bunch of them. You know, we kind of just trying to spread the love to create opportunities for our filmmakers. That's it.
That's phenomenal. And of course, we send our warmest bonjour to some of your filmmakers who have their films screening at Paris, and they had such an incredible experience at Hollyshorts, and it's amazing to hear all you're doing to contribute to their success. I so much loved Beat Picks, and I remember one of the first panels I saw was moderated by Chris. It was such an amazing panel about press. Chris, do you want to share with us maybe a little bit of a history of Film Threat and how you're contributing to short film distribution in that trend?
Well, okay. I started Film Threat magazine. Film Threat was a print magazine in the 90s, which print, if anyone remembers, it's like the internet, but on really thin slices of wood. That's what a magazine is, if you've never heard of that. Yeah, so I started Film Threat, and our mission has always been to support small independent films, including short films. I even, I directed a short film called Red, starring Lawrence Tierney, that I self-distributed in the 90s. Film Threat now is a movie website, and we will review anything, including short films. So if you go to filmthreat.com, there's a little button that says submit. You can send us your film. We will cover it, review it. We'll feature it on our social media and give it publicity. And that's always been our mission. We've stuck with that mission from the beginning. Film Threat's always been kind of an alternative film magazine, so a film outlet. So we're all about supporting indie filmmakers, and in particular short filmmakers, because we know they are the future. What I've really been impressed by as we've struggled through, current times, and as we're safely getting back to in-person screenings, I love virtual film festivals. I hope they do not go away. I think it's an opportunity for our team. We just finished covering Sundance. Now we're covering Slamdance. Our ability to now cover virtual film festivals from all over, if we have access, we can cover them. So I hope a hybrid model of live and in person and continuing digital screenings, I hope that continues, because it really helps us out. We have a team of 30 writers located all over the world that write about films, and short films are something we feature on the Film Threat website. So please send us your movies. So we'll review it at any stage. You've just finished it and whatnot. I do think the landscape has changed now. There are more opportunities for indie filmmakers. YouTube, if that's a route that you choose to go, which you can monetize your content there. So in a way, self-distribute, or many other outlets to get distribution for your short film. I think this is a golden age for short filmmakers. So I'm happy to be a part of this panel, and in particular, Theo Dumont, because he and I have partied together at Mammoth, and I hope to one day do that again soon, Theo. So thank you for including me in this.
Absolutely.
Excited about the Mammoth Film Festival, and I completely second what you say, Chris. We really hope also there will still be some kind of virtual going on, of course, only on top of the in-person experience that we all cherish and love so much, because it provides accessibility, and finally some of our filmmakers who sometimes didn't have access to festivals because of budget, because that also happens, or childcare, because that also happens, finally can participate, which is really exciting. Talking about the future of short film distribution, and also picking up on a couple of points that you have mentioned, goals and monetization. So a lot of our filmmakers, when they make a short film, first they think, is it okay to want it to be monetized? What is your vision about that? And what could be also over goals in terms of a short film, in terms of being distributed? What can be beneficial? Maybe starting with Katie.
Oh,
Sorry,
I missed
Jenna,
you.
you
cut off.
Before, yeah. Would you mind repeating the question?
Oh, sure. I'll do it again, and we will edit it. That's absolutely fine. So a very important question that our filmmakers really wonder about is, when they make a short film, first, is it okay for them to see it monetized? Is it something that is still possible? And are there any other goals that are possible and that are also important in terms of short film distribution that they maybe don't usually consider? Maybe starting with Katie, because Katie, you work a lot for festival distribution. So how do you handle what you mentioned, which is the next stage, the distribution part? Do all the short films get distribution, or does sometimes the filmmaker not necessarily want that? How do you handle that relationship with them?
Yeah, it's true. Not every short film gets distribution. I think it does vary on the film itself. As Theo mentioned, there are kind of VOD platforms that specialize in genre. So you have Dust and Alter, and is it Gunpowder and Plot? I think is the other one. And I think if you just take a traditional kind of humdrum, drama, they're a little bit harder to kind of sell, just because there's not necessarily a hook or a kind of defined audience already there. I think for us, not every film gets distribution, but it's also not what every filmmaker is wanting. I think I've been doing this 17 years now. I've seen so many different changes. We have many more festivals than we used to. There are more submission numbers kind of going through the roof. But also we didn't have the boon of the internet. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat where, we imbibe stuff in very short chunks. So back about 10 years ago, we used to get filmmakers who would do the festival circuit, and then a sales agent would pick them up and sell them to long distance entertainment packages on planes or long distance trains, sell them to broadcast and territories around the world. That still happens, but it's less fruitful. It's not necessarily as forthcoming with the dollar, shall we say. But you can still kind of garner interest from your film in a very different way now. So a lot of people will go to a VOD or somewhere like Klipist, or they'll do self-launch online, and it's mostly realistically to treat their short form content as a calling card, to kind of say, well, this is what I can do, and I did this in 10 minutes with a limited budget. Imagine what I could do if you gave me more money and more time. So I kind of, excuse me, I don't necessarily feel like it's not bad to want monetization from your short form content, but it's not always necessarily kind of there for each film. But you can still utilize kind of, exposure. That's kind of why festivals exist, is to kind of give someone else's stamp of approval, to say, hey, this is really, really good stuff. And look out for them for the, the next short they make or the first feature. So it's not the be all and end all. And some of the goals from a lot of our clientele, they are either people, first time filmmakers. We have a lot of people that, they're taking a sidestep in the industry, people from advertising, marketing. We've even had like a criminal barrister that was literally like, I've made a short film, I want to see if I can make a short film, and they did, and it was good. So, it can be a very, very unique story to the individual filmmaker, but not necessarily always about getting the deals and the money, but a nice bonus if you do.
I just want to add to something Katie said about having a defined audience. I think that's quite the key to, before you even start your project, to define your audience and your goal, because it's going to be very different if your goal, for example, is more to showcase some skills, and then your audience might be, some networking opportunities. You want someone to see what you've done and to maybe hire you on another project. Or maybe you have a very different goal. Maybe you're trying to tell a story to push a message forward, and then again you have a different sort of audience there. So I think defining your goal and your audience is what's going to impact your project and what's going to make it successful or not, so that you can really have something that is, aligned. Because if you make a project, or you can make a project for yourself, but then it's more of a portfolio and the audience will be again different. But yeah, so to me, the first thing, I work in digital marketing, so for us, the main thing first is to define the audience and what message we want to put forward. So, and I think it's the same for short films.
And so as a marketing strategist, Julie, would you advise the filmmakers to think first about their goals? I understand that would be probably from the development stage, correct? Because then they would have to think from their goals about the audience they want to target somehow.
Yeah.
And build the script on that. Would you recommend that?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't encourage to put limitations to the writing, but I think the sooner you define your goal, your audience, what you're trying to achieve with that project, the more successful it will be. Even because for production, for example, it can even help you find some funding opportunities. I have a friend, for example, who is working on a project. It's a short film, and it's telling the story of someone who has the Alzheimer's disease. So he reached out to associations about that disease, and he got some government funding as well, thanks to that, because he reached out to them, and so they're supporting his project. So if you think of this ahead, then it's just going to make your project a lot easier, because if you have your audience, then your audience will be able to support you as well, even at the production stage. So that's why it's easier. It makes the whole project easier if you think of it ahead of time, rather than making the film and then being at the point where you're like, okay, now what do I do with it?
It's really inspiring to understand that it actually can also help you make the film. As you mentioned, with sponsorship and financing. And maybe one last question about that, thinking about our filmmakers who maybe have already made their film, they haven't thought about their audiences, or maybe there was just this important story they wanted to tell. What is the last minute plan? As a marketing strategist, what do you advise them to save the cat? What can they do?
Well, there are different options. It's never too late, to find an audience. But yeah, I think, to be honest, I think festivals are a great place to start, because people who attend festivals are here to watch content. So they have an open mind, and they're ready to, they're open to new content and stories. And that's the exact reason why they're here. So you can still have your film going through the festival circuit, no problem at all. But yeah, I was thinking more if you're looking for an online audience, or if you're self-distributing, then if you haven't done this before, now is the time to define your audience and really target target precisely the people that you want. It's like when you're looking for a job, you have to customize your resume to the job you're applying for, and it's the same when you want to distribute a film. You need to find the exact audience that will take an interest in your film. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing this, Julia. It's extremely insightful. And talking about film festivals, Theo, so I bet it's going to be challenging to share with us 90 years of success short films. But maybe can you walk us through a couple of examples in terms of this idea of making sure to target audiences? Like, do you think that all the filmmakers who have their films selected at your festival really did that? Did they go through all this process? Do you have any stories to share about that?
Absolutely. Well, just we're exposed to so much content. There's a few interesting case studies, right, to look at. I would say I agree with the panel. In the onset of creating the work, you should visualize, maybe take a look at some other shorts that compare it to the content you're trying to make, and see what festivals what's been their festival success. Also, if they've gotten distribution, and it goes back to the point of identifying your audience. But also, as noted on the panel, sometimes at the end, things can happen with the success. If you make an amazing, great product and it starts having festival success, you can hire a sales agent. You can utilize that festival momentum if you're getting shortlisted to get sales. I mean, we've had Guy Nativ, who did Skin. We world premiered Skin a few years ago. It wasn't on the radar of a lot of people. We loved that film. It ended up getting shortlisted. And this was a very rare case. He also made a feature film named Skin at the same time. So he has a feature going on the festival. Matthew Cherry, Hair Love, the short, which ended up winning. Again, sorry for all the Oscar examples, but that was Dove. Dove sponsored. He got Dove as the sponsor. and they've won, and now they've made a whole business out of Hair Love, where they have intellectual property, they have books, they have sequels, they have series adaptations. So it just depends, you know. And then also some friends of ours are the folks at Disney and horror films. Like I know Chris Gore's a big horror enthusiast and genre. They have a program called 30 Days of Horror, and basically you could pitch your idea, pitch your short, and if it fits the parameters of what they're looking for, they can fund it. And you know, they have distribution via their platforms like Hulu and stuff. So I would say every case is different, but it is starting from the ground floor and working your way up and visualizing what you want, you know. Another thing is this past year at Hollyshorts, we had a partner of ours create a marketplace where they have got buyers from all over the world, and it's called Bueller. You know, you submit your project, you hype it up, they got buyers, and if someone's interested, they might give you an offer and buy your short. So that didn't exist, you know, it existed in some fashion, but not like this online sphere. So to us, it's super exciting. And so I don't know, I think the optimistic view, more platforms, more places to see your work, more opportunities. It's good. And they're taking notice. Even the big guys are taking notice. I mean, I think, you know, you got Warner and Netflix, they're getting more aggressive. I think Netflix last year did a competition with Film Independent for filmmakers of color, and highlighting them and showing the shorts. I think it's on YouTube, but Netflix branding. So there's a lot of more opportunities than we saw when we created Hollyshorts. So it's win-win, I feel.
Definitely, and I really want to also explore the topic of diversity right after, because it's also so dear to our festival. Chris, obviously for the filmmakers, admittedly equally for feature filmmakers, but maybe even more for short filmmakers, maybe that's their fear can be to be somehow a little bit lost in the mix because there is so much content out there. How do you contribute with Film Threat to enlightening those films and making sure that they do get the recognition that their message truly deserves?
Well, one thing that we do at Film Threat is we treat short films equally with features, as well as independent films with studio films, right? So they're featured right on our homepage. They're promoted on our social channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot. So we just treat short films equally because we do know that the short filmmaker of today, it will be the working feature filmmaker of tomorrow. And secondly, I want to go off what everyone has said, which is talking about goals. I think it's really important to be very specific about your goals. And I actually go so far as to, and I do this every year, it's a ritual of mine, is I take all my goals and I put them on a small piece of paper that fits in my wallet, and I put it where my credit cards are because I will look at it every day for some reason. And what it does is it kind of focuses your mind on what your specific goals are. And I think it's important, in particular, if you're a short filmmaker, to make very specific goals about the things you'd like to achieve. You want to get your film reviewed in a major outlet. You want to find a champion. You want to find distribution and or self-distribute. And you want to have not only a plan A, but have a plan B. In addition to defining your goals, putting it on a small piece of paper. Now that's the method that works for me. You can do whatever you want. You can put it in your notes on your phone, whatever works for you. But it's important to be specific about what those things are, because then you have a way to measure your success. You can check things off of a list of things that you achieved. Additionally, I think it's important to do your research. So for example, look at your film and be honest about what it is, what its potential is, and do your research about other short films and the pathways that they have gone. What's great about filmmakers, especially in particular emerging filmmakers, is they really want to share information and help each other out. It's a community, right? So I think it's important to look at your, whatever the genre is, wherever it fits, if it's cross genre, whatever, and look at all the potential opportunity. Look at say Hair Love and what the pathway for Hair Love was, which was a brilliant animated short film, which I'm not surprised it's now a whole intellectual property to be exploited. Is really well done. But there are so many even small streaming services out there. A couple that come to mind, there's one called Lesbian Flicks. There's Shudder does short films. Trauma Now, Lloyd Kaufman, which whatever you think of Lloyd Kaufman and Trauma Cinema, they have been one of the longest running small independent distributors that's been around. In addition, Full Moon Entertainment, Charlie Band's company for genre films, that's horror. So do your research, look at the type of film you have, look at pathways that other shorts have gone, and see if that pathway makes sense for you, or at least pieces of those pathways.
It's really inspiring. And again, it comes back to knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. It's important to attend film festivals, to read the reviews on FilmFred, just to be educated of the films you love and you want to make, and the amazing cast and crew members you want to work with. In terms, there's something I think all the panelists around this table kind of already touched on, and it's the topic of diversity, which our audiences at the Paris International Film Festival care so much about. In terms of the current landscape, we hear a lot about diversity. Would you consider that for now there has been true change achieved in the short film distribution landscape? Or is it somehow a little bit the elephant that is hiding the mountain still? How do you relate with that? And what do you do with your festivals and brands to help underrepresented voices to be more represented in the short film distribution landscape? Maybe starting with Katie.
Hello. So as I mentioned, I've been doing festival strategy for an incredibly long time, in double-digit years. And I mentioned about how many festivals there are now than there used to be. And there is a disgusting number of festivals, possibly too many, because they're not all decent or legit, or doing it for the right reasons. But the one thing I can kind of say is that the shift towards diversity across the spectrum, so from race, ethnicity, age, location, socioeconomic background, even just the genres covered, we have so many kind of variables of it now, from like, you know, female focused horror films to animated documentary specific festivals, you know, really kind of hyper specific. I still think there's more to be done, but I actually feel like the diversity that I personally would like to see is actually the diversity shown in the programmers and the festival directors and the people that are making those decisions at the top, which we are beginning to see a change. But I still think that I feel slightly torn as a strategist, because I kind of say, like, I'll just take female specific festivals as an example. They shouldn't have to exist, but I'm glad they do, because it gives those underrepresented voices a platform. But I could kind of say that about everything. You know, I still think we've got a lot of work to do, but I think there's been significant change. It might not feel like it in the microcosm of like the last few years, but over a space of 10 years, I do think we've seen a significant change just in terms of the content coming through, and in terms of, you know, the different types of festival focuses and programs being curated. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I do think it's like we are seeing more change, but we're not seeing change enough across the entire kind of industry. But you got to break a few windows and cause a bit of a ruckus to kind of get there. And I feel like, you know, some people are doing it the right way, but there's more to be done.
I completely relate to what you just said about, you know, female festivals, because about being torn, because on one hand, you don't want to put those in a box, you know, you don't want to restrict those films to just being female directed or female led. But at the same time, like you said, it also gives those films a platform, and it's the same for us at Klipist. We get submissions and we look at them and we're like, oh, they're really good, or some of them not so much, but you know, we do our selection and we select those films, and then and then I go onto the promotion step of the process, and I look at them and I'm like, all of these films are incredible, but male, 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 white, white, white. So, okay, guys, we've got to do something. There is so much talent out there. So for example, in March, I was like, okay, March is coming. You know what, guys, let's do a female focused month. Again, I was torn about it because I don't want to put that in a box, but I was like, you know what, for a month, let's make a conscious effort to get out there and find these female talents, because it's there. We just need to really just promote it. So yeah, so to answer your first question, Jenna, I do feel like there is more diversity, but it's still, I think, yeah, there's still some way to go, let's say.
There is a lot of work to be done by all the panelists around this table to also make sure that those diverse voices are protected, that they are voiced further and distributed. How did that work feel? What is the secret? You guys have promoted so many, underrepresented voices. Are you happy with that? Do you think there's a lot more to do still, though?
I mean, in short, working on it, work in progress. I think there's a lot more to go. I think we're still at the beginning. I think the festivals are becoming more conscious, which is good. And in ourselves, we want to continue. We're not there yet. We're working on it. We've got good partners, good sponsors that have helped support these initiatives, like SAG Indie, which helps underrepresented voices really amplify their stories. And they're our sponsor. Women in Film has been a partner with us for over 10 years. And we do a Women in Film program in the conversation, with mentorship. And, even here in Mammoth, we've got a killer Women Voices panel and conversation that's happened for years. And working on it, we're inspired by other groups like the Echo Park Film Center. This is a lot of domestic in the United States efforts, but in Los Angeles, the Echo Park Film Center has done phenomenal work. They take a bus and they go to underprivileged communities and they find voices and people and kids that don't have the money to go to film school, and they really nurture them and make projects with them. I think it's truly inspiring, and we hope to develop programs like that as well. So Hollyshorts is working on developing an institute where we can do something similar and get grants and really put our money where our mouth is. That's the idea. And there's other people doing great things like Outfest in the United States. In Los Angeles, they have a whole separate festival called Outfest Fusion, which really gravitates and elevates people of color and filmmakers of color. That's very inspiring. And there's platforms too, like Reverie, and there's more. It's in progress. We want more, and we're working on it.
It's extremely inspiring, and we love hearing about these stories. Chris, I guess it's something you're also maybe sometimes a little torn right about, because you review films. How do you work with considering maybe some films, because of underrepresented voices, maybe they don't have access to the same funds or the same contacts in the industry? How do you relate with that, and how do you make sure that on your media everyone is equally represented?
That's a really good question. I'll say, having been around the scene since I started Film Thread in 1985, not to date myself, but I've only seen things gotten better, right? I mean, especially in particular, I've had friends that have complained to me. They say that the Sundance Film Festival is too woke. I say, where have you been? It's always been woke. It's always supported, people of color and emerging voices. With me, we cover anything, right? So, but the thing that I'm afraid to do is I don't want to marginalize filmmakers by for example, there's a trend, Female Filmmaker Friday, where female filmmakers are featured on Friday on social media. And I find that in a way kind of condescending. If we cover a female filmmaker, that's a Tuesday for us. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So we cover, in particular, I've just noticed that there has been a rise in more films from more diverse voices. This is a good thing. It was difficult in the 90s to, find female directors to cover. But for me, my inspiration, probably because I grew up in the 80s, was Spike Lee. Spike Lee is a filmmaker who didn't care, had no obstacles in his way whatsoever, didn't give he's an I don't give a F, right? I'm just going to make my unfiltered, and he's my inspiration more than anything, an indie filmmaker and an independent voice that was robbed at the recent Oscars, in my opinion, for Black Klansman. That's a whole other conversation. But I think it's important, with Film Threat, we have 30 writers from all over the world, probably another 20 that kind of come, and join us every once in a while. But it's important, I think, to have diverse perspectives, not just diversity based on, just sort of physical, we can't change, but diversity of thought and ideas. So some of our writers are very ardent feminist women writers. We have a writer who's a Christian conservative. We have a Black conservative writer who writes for us. We have very diverse voices. And what I'd like to see, because Film Threat, I have, to the best of my ability, my personal politics are very center left, right? Very middle of the road. But I think it's important to have diversity of thought. And I think that that's been lost in our media. And I have kept Film Threat doesn't, lean one way or the other in particular. And we have voices that cover all those perspectives. But I think it's important to respect the work, to respect the filmmaker, and not to marginalize. Because I remember, and I'm a kid, right, in the 80s, and there would be the women's filmmaker part of a festival, and they would put it off in a room, and they wouldn't get as big attendance. And I'm like, just put everyone together. How about these are all the films that we endorse. It doesn't matter. And so I've always come from that perspective. Maybe that's my Gen X attitude. I just want everyone to be treated equally. So, but I've only seen things gotten better, as time has gone on. To me, the best filmmakers from emerging voices are unfiltered, right? They're people who are not beholden to other, whether they be financial concerns or whatnot. The art comes through. That's why a film like Hair Love, right? Just to reference back to, Theo, the short that he was talking about, that one is just so brilliant, right? It's unfiltered. It's, very personal. So that's kind of where I come at it from. And I've only seen things gotten, and I think it's only going to continue to get better, and when you look at because on a more mainstream level, movies are getting better in Hollywood, but that's a whole separate conversation. Hollywood's its own beast. I think independent film has been very accepting. Studio films, there's much more work to be done there. On an independent level, we're doing pretty well, and of course we can always do better.
It's great to hear it's going in the right direction, and indeed it's a work in progress, but watch out, filmmakers, soon there will be glass everywhere. And I really want to thank all the panelists around this table, because you've been sharing the knowledge, and we understand that at the end of the day, knowledge is what's more important. I'm sure so many of those of you who are listening or watching this will want to be in touch with you. What can you help short filmmakers and more generally filmmakers with, and what is the best way to contact you about it? Maybe Katie?
So we are Festival Formula on all of the social handles, and festivalformula.com. We watch everything for free to consider for our slate. I do recommend that people look at our slate page to see all the films that we're advising and handling. And I also would recommend, if you are a filmmaker, to come and follow us on whatever social platform you're on. I don't say that to increase numbers. I say that because we're actually quite an interesting resource, because we announce every film that we take on, so you kind of see what film is out there, but we also announce every selection that our film clients get. So you'll be able to see perhaps a festival that you've not heard of before, or see a festival announcement that you have heard of before, and see and understand a little bit more about what they're looking for. So yeah, at Festival Formula on everything, festivalformula.com, and we are always looking for any filmmaker, they don't have to be new, just a filmmaker, just come and find us.
I absolutely second that. At the beginning of the pandemic, Katie very kindly came on our podcast to discuss the new landscape. And it's been one of our episodes which has been the most positively commented because of all the knowledge that you shared. So thank you so much for that. And I urge you all to go and follow a Festival Formula and Katie's teamwork on socials. What about you, Julie? How can the filmmakers be in touch with you?
So you can find, well, first of all, you can stream all of our short films at klipist.com, Klipist with a K, Klipist. And you can follow us as well on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at stream_Klipist. And yeah, I think Klipist is a good place to start for, you know, filmmakers, but also for if you've got friends who are not so familiar with short film and the formats and the genre. I think it's a good place to start because we've got plenty of short films that are really, really short. So, you know, it's not really, it's not a big time investment to check a few of them out. And yeah, and if you want to submit your short film as well, we do active promotion of your film. We create social media content around your film for it to, you know, reach a wider audience. So yeah, check us out at klipist.com.
Absolutely. It's important to also watch, because even as an audience member, you can watch the films from underrepresented voices and share their work. Don't need to be rich, don't need to be powerful to do that.
Absolutely.
You have upcoming submission deadlines at the festival. How can we submit our film to the festivals that you represent?
Yes. Hollyshorts submissions are open right now, and screenplay contest is open now. Just Film Freeway. Look for Hollyshorts, or just go to hollyshorts.com and it'll take you right to the link. Mammoth Festival is actually happening right now as we speak. So they've chosen in person. So wish us luck, you know. And then, you know, if you want to get in touch with me, just Instagram, I am Theo Dumont. I'm on there. And then same with Hollyshorts. If you have any questions, you know, you can hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. And that's it. That's really it. BitPix, we stream our shorts. We got a monthly screening coming up this month. So check out some cool shorts, and we're open to everything, all genres. And we're working on our next, we want to get our documentary category as an Oscar qualifying category. So then we're working on that now. We have 3 categories, working on doc and some other surprises. So the work is never done.
Really exciting. Yeah, so much more to be done, and really excited about the documentary section. We will definitely check that out. Chris, how can we submit our films for your reviews? I think you also are the host of the Film Thread podcast. How can we follow those?
Well, real easy. One, you can, we're Film Threat on everything. So just follow us, Film Threat on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow us there. If you have any interest in, you know, following me personally, I'm that Chris Gore on Instagram, Twitter, and whatnot. So, but for Film Threat, just go to filmthreat.com. There's a button, submit, if you'd like to submit your film. It's free. We also offer promotional packages. We keep things very inexpensive for filmmakers to promote their movies if you wish to do that. Additionally, if you want to contact myself and the Film Threat staff, there's a contact button, Film Threat. Just go to contact at the bottom. That goes directly to me and Alan Ng and other editors, and we answer all of our emails. So feel free to ask us questions, and we will help you out. And send us your films. We want to review your movies. So thank you.
How wonderful. And you have an amazing newsletter. I will always love reading, because it's important to read about those contents that are coming out there. I want to say a grand merci à tous. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and being part of this festival. It's been an absolute honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Jenna.